Hello and welcome. There's this huge challenge in business today, and we're going to dive right into it. How do we get past just saying people are important and actually start proving it with cold, hard data? That's what we're exploring, the journey from just talking the talk to walking the walk with data-driven rigor.
I mean, come on, we've all heard this, right? It's practically on every corporate website in every annual report. It's a really nice sentiment, and every leader wants to believe it. But what does it actually mean when the rubber hits the road and it's time to make real decisions?
Because, without data, that phrase is it's just talk. To give it any real meaning, to turn it into an actual strategy, we have to look at the evidence. The real trick, though, is figuring out what that evidence is even trying to tell us.
And this, right here, gets to the absolute heart of our explainer. There's this myth that organizations just don't have enough data. But the reality? They're often drowning in it. You've got data from recruitment, performance reviews, payroll, employee surveys. The list goes on. The central challenge isn't a lack of data, it's a failure to make sense of what it all means.
Okay, so before we can build anything useful, we have to understand what can go wrong. Let's peel back the layers and look at the common pitfalls that can turn a mountain of data into a pile of, useless numbers.
So there are really three major roadblocks that get in the way of reliable insights. First up, incompatible data. This happens all the time after mergers, when you've got two different systems that just refuse to talk to each other. Second, you've got fragmented systems in big, diverse companies, where something as simple as counting heads can be calculated in different ways. And the root cause? A lot of the time, HR systems are chosen without enough thought, so they don't even track the right stuff from day one.
So how do we get past these roadblocks and, more importantly, stop making bad assumptions? We have to prove causality. We have to build these structural links between an action and an outcome. For instance, does paying a bonus actually cause better performance? To figure that out, you need a solid, logical framework. This slide lays out that framework perfectly. To prove that a bonus causes a performance boost, you gotta meet three conditions. First is co-occurrence. The bonus payments and the performance increase have to happen together. Makes sense. Second is chronology. The bonus has to come before the performance goes up. And finally, and this is the tricky one, isolation. You have to rule out other factors. What if you launched a huge training program at the same time? That could be the real reason for the improvement. Only when you've checked all three boxes can you say you have a true causal link.
All right, now that we get the logic, let's map out the territory. What kind of data are we even talking about here? Well, it turns out there are 8 core asset classes of organizational data that we can work with.
And here they are. Just look at this. Think of these as your building blocks for creating real human capital intelligence. You've got everything from demographic data to customer data, and each one gives you a unique piece of the puzzle. Let's just touch on a few of the key ones.
First up is demographic data. This is the basic who of your workforce. We're talking age, length of service, gender ratios, things like that. And this stuff is absolutely essential for strategic planning. For example, the UK's Ministry of Defence used age mapping and discovered they were super reliant on workers over 45. That one insight kicked off a whole new strategy to recruit and develop that talent pool for the future.
Next, you've got your classic HR data, the foundational stuff like employee turnover and absence rates. Now, this is where the numbers have some serious financial weight. There's this great story about an HR director who got the board's full attention by proving that just a 1% drop in staff turnover would save enough money to buy a brand new BMW for every single executive. Now that is how you make data speak the language of business. Then there's employee opinion data, which really gets at the why behind performance. This is all about engagement, feedback, and leadership, the stuff that drives what's called discretionary effort. That extra bit of passion people give when they feel valued. A fantastic example is Standard Chartered Bank. They get a 97% response rate on their surveys, and they've shown a clear link between their most engaged teams and top-tier financial performance. And finally, to make it all count, you have to connect your people data to business performance data. This means looking at external metrics, sales, productivity, brand value. When you start to correlate this with your internal data, like engagement, you can actually start to predict the financial return on your people initiatives. Pfizer, for instance, links its HR metrics directly to the activity and success of its sales calls. That creates a crystal clear line from people management straight to the bottom line.
Okay, so we've got all these different types of data, but how do we actually use them effectively? How do we go from a mess of spreadsheets to real strategic insight? The answer is a clear, step-by-step framework for what's called data maturity.
The whole philosophy here is simple. You have to walk before you can run. First, you start basic, just identifying raw trends. Then you prove the integrity of that data. Is it even accurate and reliable? And only then can you move up to the highest level and start identifying the true drivers of business performance.
So let's see how this framework actually builds, level by level. Level 1 is all about nailing the basics. The main action here is just collecting that fundamental input data, absence, turnover, that sort of thing. The outcome is simply getting reliable, basic information. This allows you to take reactive measures, like, say, an intervention to reduce a high accident rate you spotted in one department.
Now, at level 2, you start to get more proactive. The action shifts to more targeted data collection, and you start looking for correlations. For example, you might discover that really high job satisfaction is linked to flexible work policies. The outcome here isn't just a report, it's the real information you need to design smarter HR policies that actually boost performance.
And finally, at level 3, data becomes a true strategic tool. The action is to identify key performance indicators, or KPIs, that are directly tied to the company's overall business strategy. The outcome is incredibly powerful. You have analytical models that inform major decisions, and you can prove your progress to everyone, from your own team to investors.
So when you successfully climb this maturity ladder, something pretty amazing happens. You finally achieve the ultimate goal of all this human capital reporting. You finally get the ability to answer the single most important question an executive can ask. Where should we put our money when it comes to our people to get the best possible return for the business?
And this slide just illustrates the payoff perfectly. It's the virtuous cycle. It all starts with good HR practices that give you reliable data. That data leads to thoughtful insight, which gives managers real credibility because they're making smarter decisions. This improves business performance, which in turn creates demand for even more human capital information. And just like that, HR earns a permanent, strategic seat at the table.
So, the really crucial point to take away is that this transformation, this move from rhetoric to rigor, it's not a one-and-done project. It is an ongoing journey of continuous improvement, of building your capability and your credibility over time.
And that really leaves us with one final question to think about. Looking at this whole framework, from the most basic reporting all the way up to being a strategic driver, where is your organization on the path to data maturity?